Hey everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vontz of the Choose the Hard Way podcast, Always the Hard Way newsletter, United States of Sweat, and your consultancy, which is named One Real Voice. Which will Andrew explain what do we need One Real Voice for?
Well, if you're a senior executive and being a master of open-ended dynamic communication situations, such as being a world-class podcast guest or host, is mission critical in your role, which increasingly it is. Old school media training just doesn't cut it. I provide strategic guidance and coaching when you're ready to be your best. You can email me at hello@onerealvoice.com or DM me at HardwayPod. And Spencer, for anyone who missed it, we did just drop the Omnibus Abandon Your Family live at Pace Ranch episode over on Choose the Hard Way. Check that out. And of course, you can find the write-up in the newsletter, as Spencer mentioned, at alwaysthehardway.substack.com. Spencer, top of mind for me before we dive into some pretty action-packed racing, the controversial Quinn Simmons interview, and of course, some serious action coming up in the UAE. And I'm not talking about a $500 million investment to a certain individual. I have just been haunted by the sound of the Normatec engine kicking on and beginning to compress Jonathan Kaplan's legs. I don't know about you, just like,
Yeah, it's in my head.
I wake up, it's in my head. You'll have to listen to the full episode over on Choose the Hard Way to get the details. Kind of a disturbing, slippery slope towards Normatec addiction. It did make me think, I have not reached out to Hyperice. I'm wondering if potentially they need to get in the mix with us here on Beyond the Peloton and over at Choose the Hard Way. And of course, riding with could be their primary vehicle to really break through fully beyond endurance sports elites and to conquer the mainstream in the compression space.
Maybe they want to stay away from us because we show the dark side of Hyperice. What can happen if you use too much Hyperice? And that is the episode we thought was lost. We thought technical difficulties had rendered our entire trip with no content created from it, which wouldn't have been good. But it was found and it's out. And we said a lot of stuff that, maybe could, maybe in a previous era could get us canceled. But we're back. We're here to deliver you the show today. The big news, Andrew, of the week. I'm sad to deliver this to anyone that's not heard it. Mads Pedersen crashed first stage at Volta Valenciana, broke his collarbone and wrist, separate one. So left wrist, right collarbone. That sucks because you can't use either hand for the moment. He's had surgery. You'd have to imagine this is not good for his classics prep. When you combine Wout van Aert's injury, the broken ankle, also not a good. What was going on with all these? These are the worst injuries you could have with the classics coming up. We are going toward a Pogacar-apocalypse because this is all lining up for Tadej Pogačar to win every monument. Where is Mathieu van der Poel right now? Do we know? Do we have a wellness check on him? Someone get that man in a safe room right away because these guys are dropping like flies. Are you concerned about Pogačar just winning every race from now on out?
Spencer, I wanted to note, I started to get some panic texts from classics fans following Mathieu van der Poel's individual time trial victory over at the Cyclocross World Championships, because what did he do? He didn't go to Disneyland. He immediately went skiing. He went alpine skiing, and people were freaking out. What is this guy doing? I saw that Pog also was doing some alpine skiing. I'm not going to remember the name of the ski resort. It's a climb from the tour. It's like the GPX 3000. It's the name of a file on your Garmin, but it's a ski resort. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Is it Isla 2000?
Yes. Yeah. So he was up there skiing, and people are like, what are these guys doing? Just losing their minds. Why are you up there risking an orthopedic injury? And I get it. They've got the best in the world at ACL construction up there in Eagle County, Vail, Colorado. Those orthopedic surgeons are basically kings and queens in that valley.
I'm not
right?
quite sure how that happened, but I just was talking to someone and like, yeah, I'm in Vail for a surgery for an
Of
orthopedic event.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lindsey Vonn may be there right now before she heads out to Cortina. She may
Just
be getting
a
a
quick ACL surgery. Yeah.
quick cadaver ligament graft. I don't know.
What do
Works
we
for
think what do
others.
we think about that, by the way?
I have some thoughts about this, and I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So, what do you think is going on there?
Well, so she had an ACL rupture. That sounds like a tear to me. To rupture is to tear, I think is what Shakespeare said. But I don't know. She's so good that because it's two-pronged question. Is this good for Lindsey Vonn to race in the Olympics with a torn ACL? And in the uncomfortable question, is this in the best interest of USA skiing for her to race? Because presumably there's someone available that did not make the team that has a intact ACL. In this case, I personally think she should not race. Like, what are we doing? I think ACLs are important. You're going to race with a torn ACL? Like, that's insane. And you could hurt your body because you're not able to control yourself on a dangerous slope. Probably the second question, I think probably Lindsey Vonn has earned the opportunity to take up a spot, even if she's not at her best. She probably has a better chance of medaling with one ACL than most Americans do with two. I mean, I can't believe she's doing it just from a health or personal safety standpoint.
An ACL rupture apparently is when it's completely detached from the bone, or it's some of the descriptions to me sound like a primary school child takes a pair of safety scissors and simply cuts your ACL in half. That's the severity of a rupture. It's the worst possible thing that could happen to your ACL other than it being surgically removed. And from what I'm reading, it makes it impossible to walk. I have no idea how you would remain upright and stable to go down a mountain under the shearing forces and the stabilization needs of a downhill skier. And when I saw this news that she had the ACL rupture and she was going to compete, you could think, hey, this is really heroic. And as you noted, Spencer, perhaps a better chance for Lindsey Vonn to medal with the rupture than someone coming off the bench, although I don't know who that person would be, and I guarantee
Yeah,
you
we should say we just are not so plugged into the depth chart of the USA ski team.
I have a feeling whoever that individual is who's missing the opportunity to go to the Olympics probably thinks they could do a pretty good job and has spent their entire life pursuing this goal. I actually started to think, yeah, of course you're not going to want to miss your shot at being in the Olympics, especially when you're someone of that profile. Sponsor dollars riding on this. I bet a documentary is being made about, there's probably going to be a Netflix series about this ACL. It may have its own meme coin at this point.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
The content machine loves this. Star athlete injury Olympics. They're ready to go.
And then the next thought that I had was it made me very concerned for Lindsey Vonn as a person.
Yeah.
And I just thought about life beyond the sport because she's already left. She's come back. And when athletes don't have an identity outside of who they are as an athlete, and more specifically themselves as an athlete at the absolute pinnacle of their sport, it doesn't tend to go very well when that athletic career ends and then maybe they've had that Dancing with the Stars appearance, and then there's this question of then what? So I'm wondering what the and then what is here in this situation.
You see this, it's like then what? And you see a lot of people struggle with it when they retire from the top level of the sport.
Yeah, just want that rush. Next thing you know, you're showing up, going to carnivals, you're going on dangerous rides. I mean, where does it stop?
Like, oh, that's an old looking roller coaster. I got to get on there. It could
Where
fall
does it
apart
stop?
at any second.
Right. But I know that people listening, a lot of bike racing this week, and the
Muscat Classic this morning.
Yeah,
of course,
you know how much I love those French demi-classic events. So there's some pretty exciting stuff to talk about in that regard. But maybe let's start off with the biggest news of the week, which is the upsetting result at CBR number 2 in Carson and SoCal. I'm trying to pull up the results. It's not on Pro Cycling Stats, which blows my mind.
I know. Like, I think you could do a parking lot crit in Boulder, and it's on Pro Cycling Stats, and then this race isn't on. But have they left USA Cycling?
CBR left USA Cycling a long time ago.
So I think that's probably why they're not. USA
Right.
Cycling like doesn't allow you to post your results in public databases.
Yeah, this is a bit of an Uncle Rico moment here. I'm going to throw one over the mountain. I believe in 2003 or 2004, I wrote a feature for Velo News, the print Velo News, about CBR and Christopher Lott, who is the person who started CBR, who was a former Marine. And yeah, at that time they had broken away from USAC, and Chris was great because he was one of those. He's probably still around. So Chris, if you're out there, hats off. I truly do think CBR is the heart of American racing. It is the heartbeat of American bicycle racing. And Chris was the kind of masters.
John Peters got a bone to pick with you.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
What about Unbound, baby?
Yeah, I have strong views about this, which we perhaps can get into later. But there's nothing like that Rumble in Dominguez Hills or Rumble in Carson, and just that species of SoCal, monster media, whatever it was called, that just like that bodybuilder out there, 250 pounds, but going 35 miles an hour, elbows out. I know, Spencer, I sent some footage across of some contact within the race. People aren't going to be able to see it. I'm just wondering if, based on what you saw, did it look like standard contact that would be acceptable within the professional ranks?
Probably. I don't want to get in trouble here, but you see this like the SoCal bro, and the SoCal bro does very well at CBR. Like, that environment's very good for them. And then you'd see them show up to other pro races with big teams like UHC, and they're trying to do the contact, but they're off the back because I think if it's a real fast race, like, you're just going to get dropped. Like, there's no time for contact. You got to hold that freaking wheel of Carl Menzies because he's doing 700 watts seated.
Right.
But probably actually that contact was not that crazy for a crit like that. But I will say, as the crits get faster, the contact maybe gets ironed out a little bit. And you see these guys you mentioned, like 250 pounds. They like sculpt themselves for these specific courses, and then they show up to a race with any sort of climbing, and like, oh yeah, like, we're not going to be able to contest that. 100 feet of climbing every 10 miles, right. I think you'll be fine. Like, no, they are really dialed in on a specific course.
That was probably my favorite comment. There were a lot of comments on this post showing it wasn't incidental contact. It was a certain rider just riding across the road just to put the boots to someone who was riding in a straight line.
Yeah.
And also, in a way, kind of like, it would be hard to describe, but kind of coming up under someone's bars, which is not a standard or advisable technique if you're going to be leaning into someone. Typically, you kind of want to have your bars in front of theirs. At any rate, I saw that Scott Redding, I don't know if he's MotoGP or Superbike. I don't quite know all the differences of professional world-class motorcycle racing. He's one of the best in the world at whatever his form of motorcycle racing is. And he's out there racing solo. On all of his videos, he keeps talking about, like, I'm out here solo. I don't have a team. I want to get this guy on a team because he is nearly winning this criterium against these highly organized teams with, some of the best domestic criterium racers, and just kind of keeps riding to the front by himself over and over and then contesting the sprint, but a bit worn out by the end because he's marking moves, which I'm not a professional criterium racer, but Scott, if you're listening, you just don't mark the moves. The break is not going to make it at CBR. He's got a great video out. And then we had Alejandro Che winning the event, I believe.
Well, and this is actually a great example of Alejandro Che is a very good international bike racing 20-year-old. Like, this man races in Belgium and does well. And this shows you what happens when you show up to CBR with a big world-class engine. Like, you can beat these super organized teams.
Yeah, Spencer, I do want to note that Alejandro Che's, okay, I guess that would make sense to Dustfar. This was maybe his first race of the year. So this is his first race on Pro Cycling Stats for 2026. However, as you noted, you take a look at 2025, and yes, he spent a lot of time in Belgium last July. Yeah, I'm looking at the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, and okay, all right, he did all right there. Tour of Somerville. Yeah, he
Won a CBR Dominguez Hills last year, last January 19th.
There you go. So this guy's a hitter.
It also shows you how good Valley of the Sun stage race is. He got 10th at one of the stages, and that was his best result.
Right,
And then he
which
went
of
on
course makes me think about Matthew Riccatello
exactly
telling
what I was
us
gonna
about
say.
how in like his first real professional bike race after, what did he tell us? I've been kind of riding around for 6 months, shows up at Valley of the Sun, and I believe wins the time trial, right?
I think he got second by a
We got
fraction of a
second
second.
by a fraction.
Which, like, Valley of the Sun
Yeah.
is so competitive.
And he
It's
was
ridiculous.
what, 15, 16?
Yeah, first race ever.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, pros, they're not just like us. All right, CBR, I just wish, I mean, maybe there's a business opportunity here. Maybe there's just a podcast 100% focused on CBR, and it could aggregate all of the incredible first-person GoPro-style footage from these events. It's almost like the Zapruder film. After a while, you're just getting, you're just waiting. Does somebody else have another angle of this? It's mind-blowing. I can't get enough of it.
A tech company that has a product that's just collating GoPro footage from crits.
That's
It'd
it.
be amazing.
Yeah. But perhaps I'm showing my age here a bit. I don't think I ever would race another criterium. I just think the juice is not worth the squeeze. Yet when I watch it, and I never did it at a super high level, I have to say I still miss it. It's pretty thrilling. It's a very fun form of bike racing.
I think I've told this story. I agree with you. I get freaking freaked out even thinking about it. And I used to race a lot of crits. But I did a crit in Maryland, and I thought I was racing fairly conservatively, and I got a talking to after the race about how I was endangering everybody. So, which at the time annoyed me, pissed me off, but I actually kind of like that in retrospect, of almost professional wrestling version of crit racing.
Right.
It's like, all right, we're out here to like go around real fast, and someone's going to win, but we don't win like by taking risks. You're like, well, that's actually kind of cool. Like, if you could crit that had track justice, that you couldn't just cut. Said I was like, they're like, we don't pass on the inside in corners. It's like, that's the only way I know how to move up. That's my move, guys.
Yeah,
Take that away. What do I have?
Spencer, I have to ask, the bulk of my group riding career, I'm talking about storied, world famous group rides, was in SoCal. So things like the Simi ride, the Montrose ride, the Rose Bowl ride. And I would say on average, there was at least one incident that nearly resulted in an actual fist fight on every group ride I ever went on in SoCal, and people having words afterwards. Is that the case in Boulder?
Not really. No, it's like the opposite of that. And I think in Boulder, people kind of laugh at the aggro-ness of the thing. In Boulder, the party line is like in California, they're wasting all their energy on like lifting weights, getting big, getting tattoos, and yelling at each other, not actually riding their bikes fast. And I think it's probably looked at with a bit of bemusement that it is kind of ridiculous. These rides, like, what is it? Is that just the West Coast anger? Like, you're just mad from housing prices and being in traffic, and then you just got to like yell at people in a group ride. People will not. I would say in Boulder, the thing is, in Boulder, you're not going to get yelled at. You're just going to get left behind because some of these rides are nuclear fast. And I don't know. I've never really had a fight. Never really. One time I got into like Michael Burley was trying to ride me off the back of a group ride, and he was like yelling at me, and I didn't even really know who he was. I was like, this is kind of intense. But that was one incident over a decade.
Right. And this was actually 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and we did have a fist fight. This guy also he was just a local hitter, and he showed up to Redlands, which was really hard at the time, and I think he beat Chris Horner and Sepp Kuss on the uphill finish, like the summit finish. I was like, Jesus, like, he's like a working attorney at the time. It would the kids these days, they think Pogacar is good. They don't remember Michael Burley. This guy was incredible. But you were talking about orthopedic injuries to top stars, and then this was like 20 minutes ago at this point, and I interrupted you. I'm worried that you had a thought there you didn't finish.
I have a lot of thoughts that I didn't finish. I think as it relates to that, you hit the nail on the head, which is if you're getting an ACL reconstruction, you want to be in Eagle County. Vail's got to be the best spot to get it done. And when we take a look at Wout, for example, who at this point, he's not the $1 million man. He's got to be the $1 billion man. And I'm not talking about his paycheck. I'm talking about the amount of metal that's inside this dude from these different orthopedic injuries. And I was, as I was going into a stretch of AFib on the trainer yesterday, and then got off to do the bearing down method, which I learned about from my boy Chase Work. Shout out Chase, it worked. And then I got back on the trainer because you don't want to let a little cardiac incident get in the way of your training, right? No, we got to think about, we've got some mid-pack results coming up here in the near future. I was watching the highlights from Flanders last year, and I'm sure like you and everyone else, I'm doing the game theory. What does Pog do this year? Is he going to win Flanders? Could he possibly win Roubaix, or does he not have enough downforce to stay on the stones? And then, of course, San Remo. Is this the year that Ghana actually gets it done? Because that's who I think about. I'm not thinking about Pog.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
I
about
have been
Ghana.
thinking about this a lot recently. And you go back through his results, a lot of near misses. And you
Yeah.
forget, this guy's really good.
I want it for Ghana, I have to say. I feel, nothing is given in life or in professional sport, but I feel like he's been on the cusp of unlocking it, and I just hope he put on a little bit of weight this winter and maybe added a couple more watts just to.
So, yeah, well, he only has to do 900 watts for 5
Yeah,
minutes.
just has to do 900 watts at 175 pounds. He looked a bit gaunt to me last year.
He did look a bit gaunt.
Yeah.
Looked a little less powerful. And not Wout. Quinn Simmons was on Geraint Thomas's podcast. Super interesting interview. But one thing he mentioned was, do you remember this? Wout van Aert was in the yellow jersey. I still can't believe this happened. In the yellow jersey, and he goes in the breakaway because his team told him they wouldn't ride to chase their breakaway back. But still, like, someone's going to ride. So if you and it was a stage he probably could have won. But I think as an FU to the team, he gets in the break with Quinn Simmons. Quinn was like, everyone thinks I cracked. I didn't crack. I was doing 650 watts on the guy's wheel, and he just rode away from me. Like, that is incredibly powerful. That is impressive. But, I mean, that shows you how strong these top guys are. And if you're a little bit off, like Ghana, like maybe running a little light last year, it's not going to be the same. Didn't he get third? He got second at San Remo last year, I believe. So he's close. He's there.
Yeah, he's close. He's there, but not quite there. And it is interesting to think about how San Remo every year, I know I said it last year and probably the year before when we did the preview and then talked about it afterwards. I think it's the best 15 minutes of bike racing in the entire year.
It might be the best race of the year because then know when the 15 minutes is happening. Sometimes you turn on Roubaix, 100K to go, and the race is already blown up, and you're like, oh my God. And then it's like piecing together a mystery. San Remo, exactly. It's like, exactly when to turn it on. It's thrilling stuff. Can't wait.
And you don't quite know what's going to happen on the final descent. I can imagine that there must be a team out there that's built a neural net and it's just running millions of simulations of what happens on the descent and how do you actually win the race once you get over the top.
Don't chase the moves. Like you're saying, the same advice applies. Also you mentioned stick to the stones. Someone on a team explained this to me quite well. So the thought is Pogacar is too light at Roubaix to stick to the stones. This was always what people said. but the science, like what is going on there and why that's changing is sticking to the stones just means you're heavy enough to manipulate the tire around the stone so you don't hop over, you don't get air basically. Like smaller people in the olden days were getting air on every cobblestone. You add that up over TK, you're going real slow. The bigger guys, their tires would literally like morph around the cobblestones because they can manipulate that tire with 120 psi in it. What's happening now is as the tires get wider, you can run a 32, 35. You know, I like UAE was testing 35 mil tires at Roubaix this year. So you spread that tire out, you lower the pressure. Maybe you're running 40 psi, 35 psi. A smaller rider can now manipulate their tire around the cobblestone. They're not popping off. They're not wasting energy. They're not in the air when they should be on the ground. And it's allowing smaller riders to do better at these rougher course races. Thus again, hurting the ability of bigger riders to do well.
Yes. You don't need as much downforce when you have a lower tire pressure.
Yeah. And they're just getting lower. They might be running 0 PSI one of these days.
They might be on run flat tires. They might just be on the tire on the rim. We don't know.
Remember the ad where it'd be like tunnel 40 kilometers long and they would like drill through the car tire and then they would go into the tunnel. That's what they're going to be like at Roubaix soon.
Yeah,
They don't
no
even
doubt
need
about
air
it.
in there.
The only thing more exciting than Roubaix, of course, is some of the action that happened this week at Etoile de Bessèges.
This is like, I was watching this, I was like, this is Andrew's jam.
It
rainy,
is. It's a rainy
Coupe de France race.
I love it. There's something about those races. There's the chaos, and the finales are something else. And when Lucas Kubic
that was thrilling.
Didn't know that he had to turn left going into the finale on, I think that was stage 2, right?
Stage 1.
It was stage 1.
And they barely caught the breakaway.
Right.
In the last few meters, Lucas Kubic was just legit going. I was like, what is he doing? I thought it was some move he had, but he just didn't know he had to turn. It was going the wrong way, basically. It was almost the year of the Kubic. And then I would have to say this is the smallest team in the race. Tom Krabbe from Team Flanders Baloise wins. That was crazy. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Got to know which way you're going to turn when you're going into the final 200 meters of a race. It made me wonder about what's going on over there at the Rocket Rose.
Too busy vlogging.
Yeah, too busy vlogging. I did want to say historically, I've enjoyed the content that they're putting out. I've started to feel that there's a bit of a Vaughters syndrome going on over there where I would just like to see more of the riders and the content. And I get it. Part of the story of this team is the story of how the team was formed and its roots in a YouTuber's success. That's not the most interesting part to me anymore. I just get the feeling that there could be more done with the actual athletes.
Yeah, like the real story here is me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just stage 2, another crazy stage. They catch the breakaway in the final sprint. Mathieu Kockelman from Lotto Intermarché, I've never heard of this person, wins in a really goofy sprint over Dylan Groenewegen. Once again, right. Unibet missing out. This is the sophomore slump they're hitting. I still can't believe Groenewegen didn't win that sprint. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's on the other hand, like we'll see. We're just getting warmed up.
We talked last week about them not going to the Tour de France. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we didn't. I'm not sure if we had a chance to talk about this.
Well, for those who
got to get Caja Rural in there.
Well, okay. So quick explainer on the situation that you have to the Tour de France gets 2 discretionary picks. The top three second division teams from the rankings the year before get auto invites. So that's going to be Tudor, Cofidis, and getting old. I can't remember the second division rankings from the year before. No, it's Q36.5, Tudor, and Cofidis. So that means the discretionary picks, the teams they could pick from, and you have to be in the top 30 of the UCI rankings. So the teams they could pick from are Total Energies, Caja Rural, Unibet, Burgos BH, Polti Visit Malta, Equipo Confarma, and VF Group Bardiani. They're not going to pick, the thinking was they're not going to pick one of these Italian teams like Polti Visit Malta, VF Group. They can't do the Giro in the Tour. It's just too much for the resources. So they're going to do the Giro. Like, that's classic Giro. Equipo Confarma and Burgos BH are due to do the Vuelta, which is owned by the same group, ASO, that runs the Tour de France. So this is all coordinated. This is a coordinated attack on Unibet. That means Caja Rural was not going to do the Vuelta because they alternate. They have 3 second division Spanish teams, and they give the two picks in the Vuelta to 2 of those 3 teams, and they alternate spots every year. It's actually quite reasonable and normal and a good thing to do, or like thinking ahead. That meant that this pick, Total Energy, is going to get in. If you're a French second division team and you didn't auto qualify, you're getting into the Tour. Like, that's awesome for you. Unibet technically is a French team. They're registered in France because that you cannot have a betting sponsor be the sponsor of your team in the Netherlands, which is really where the team's from. They do have quite a few French riders, though. So they thought they were in. I thought they were in. Caja Rural, which is slightly better in terms of points, gets the pick instead. Unibet goes to the Giro. I was a little shocked at the time. The more I think about it, Caja Rural does a Grand Tour almost every year. Unibet's never done a Grand Tour. I can see the Tour's concern, and Unibet's now going to go to the Giro because Caja Rural can't do the Giro and the Tour back-to-back. It would be too much for them. There is maybe something to be said for not sending a team that's never done a Grand Tour and have the first race be the Tour de France. I'm not even sure that's ever happened. So I would assume that's why the decision was made. And then someone asked me, they're like, wow, I'm shocked they got in, that Total Energies got in over them. It's like, no, Total Energies was always getting in. Like, you're never missing out if you're a French team. So what technically Unibet Tetima Rockets or Rose Rockets is what they're now, a French team. They're not really a French team. And I do think sending them to the Tour for their first Grand Tour probably isn't the best idea.
Yeah, as sure as Thibaut Pinot's goats getting day-old croissants, if you're a second division French team, you're going to the Tour. And when digging into the Caja Rural situation, perhaps the most shocking thing to me, and I'm still processing this, I didn't know that Fernando Gaviria was still racing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of John Peter, him and I have a text chain that's just, he texts me riders that retired that I didn't know were still racing. And Fernando Gaviria would be up there on that list for sure. I had forgotten, too, that he was still racing. Was shocked to see this.
Yeah, when he popped up at the Alula Tour in the Caja Rural kit it was a very shocking moment for me. I needed to take some time away from the family to process what I'd just seen. He's still around, though, and I'm trying to remember. I feel like he's been involved in, speaking of the SoCal group ride scene, he's been involved in some incidents, if I'm recalling correctly, right?
Definitely some incidents. Definitely some. I don't want to get in. We shouldn't get into it here, but he's a lively man. I think there's a reason why this guy was a winning machine. I'm looking at his wins now. Like,
right.
In 2017, he wins 4 Giro stages. Like, that's nuts. I think there was a year where he won. I mean, he was the hot boy of the summer at the Tour. Like, he was unstoppable at the. He's won 2 World Tour races since COVID happened.
Right.
So that's a bit of a fall off, and he's not very old. He is 31 years old right now. So I thought he was like 40. No, he's 31. Like, that's Primož Roglič won his first Grand Tour at that age.
Well, maybe there's a Moneyball angle here. This could be the year that he really starts to pop, similar to Dylan Groenewegen. I mean, let's see what happens. I'd love to see him thrive on the stage, and 2026, this might be just what he needs.
Yeah, if they can. I mean, I think maybe he should only race in the Middle East, places that do not serve certain substances. But but okay, we're talking about injuries. I was quite excited for the UA Tour. I was pumped. You know why? Because it was going to be Jonas Vingegaard versus Remco Evenepoel. Exciting, right? No, because when we're in Tucson, Andrew, what did we hear? That Jonas Vingegaard being chased. I love that Wiesba, like this guy was like a U23 rider. Like he's pretty good. And they put out a press release. It was like, annoying person chases Jonas Vingegaard and makes him crash on his face. It's like, I'm not sure that's exactly what happened, but Jonas had a training crash. Crashing on your face on a descent, never good. And now he's out for the UA Tour. I think it's going to affect his preparation more than they're letting on. I would imagine if we went down going 50 miles an hour on our faces, we probably wouldn't feel very good. Probably would affect our training. He's got the Giro Tour double coming up. Just something to keep an eye on. I mean, if he's missing races now, the question is, does he at any point decide to dump the Giro and focus on the Tour? Now, he probably has a few million reasons to go to the Giro, so maybe he will not do that. But it's not looking good. I think someone on Reddit, there was a thread. It's like, so are we just in the Pogacar era now or what? It doesn't seem like Jonas has a chance. It's like, yeah, buddy, we've been in the Pogacar era for a bit. Like he's going to win the Tour. Sorry to break it to you.
Perhaps equal importance is that Pog has revealed his new crypto sponsor. And
Was that real or not real?
he is a global brand ambassador for KuCoin. Yes.
I thought he was hacked. That is, and you know what? Who am I to judge? Maybe there's he knows best because he's in Monaco. He sees that crypto flowing around on the streets. Maybe we all need to be buying KuCoin. Is it an exchange or like a currency?
I think the issue here is not crypto itself. The issue is KuCoin's reputation, from what I understand, which may be problematic. And you just wonder about the sources of revenue available to Pog, and might there be something a bit better out there?
What tends to happen with these, I'm not saying this is what is happening here, but a celebrity will pump a coin, like endorse it, get the coin, like the payment for the endorsement is the coin, and then they sell it. It's called the old rug pull. And then all your fans who buy it increase the value, you sell, and now your fans are stuck holding the bag as it goes down in value, which you would hope is not happening.
Celebrities and others who may be leading your country, for example.
Well, also a celebrity. But yeah, this is exactly what the first family's doing. Not to make it political. I'm just saying this is a tactic that people love. They love it.
Perhaps the bigger news, the buried lead in this story, as part of rolling out this news, Pog did an look. He did some things with his hair. He seems to really enjoy doing that. And then he shared just how deep he is into hip hop. And for anyone who's a real G and has been following this sport for a while, of course, a storied tradition of world tour teams and athletes dropping rap tracks. We had, I think, the second or third Astana rap song drop in December, potentially. If you haven't seen that, you don't want to miss it. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to see Vino not trade bars potentially to take a victory, but to actually spit bars as a rapper, this is your chance. And this Pog news is making me wonder if he's actually laying the groundwork for dropping another track.
I thought it was AI when you sent it to me, because it is a picture of Pogacar looking exactly like Eminem and then talking about it was Eminem, right? He said like that was the most influential person in my childhood.
Yeah.
But I guess he is of that age where, well, I was a little surprised because Eminem was like big when I was a kid, but I am more than 10 years older than Tadej Pogacar. But maybe we are underestimating how big Eminem is to the youth of Slovenia. They love him. Can't get enough of him.
What if we have a moment where Eminem becomes, the kind of the Robin Williams to Lance type situation where Eminem's like
That would
I
be
could actually
amazing.
I could actually see this. What if Eminem catches wind of this and he's at the tour this summer? It turns out he's actually a huge pro cycling fan and specifically loves the Slovenian subgenre.
I actually, it's funny you mentioned, I was surprised. I was at the last stage of the tour 2 years ago in Monaco. A lot of celebrities live in Monaco, right? I was surprised how little the tour does to, you watch these F1 races and it's celebrity of the week showing up. A lot of sports like that. The tour seems to almost discourage celebrities from coming. It's like the real celebrity is Christian Prudhomme. We don't want anyone outshining the director of the race. So they might block Eminem from coming. They don't want him there. They don't want the attention going to him. Should be on.
The real star is the race.
The real star is the race and Macron when he shows up and rides in that
Yeah.
team car. They love that. But yeah, now I'm thrown off track. Here's a question for you. The Astana rap video, I should say, I don't think it's making as big of cultural impact as when it first came out. Is it time for them to retire that or move on to a new genre like Astana river dance, Irish river dance video? Do they need to reinvent that?
The lyrics are so good. I don't think that they can let go of this. Riverdance, that would be phenomenal, but I feel like that's more of an EF thing.
Yeah, I'm shocked nobody's done it.
Yeah.
Astana opera video, like that would be sick. I would watch that. But Astana, with the weird thing is, like the rap video was kind of seen as a joke. Pretty good team now. They've just quietly turned into a good team. Like we're just going to be good instead of bad. How about that? And I don't think we were prepared for that.
And their bikes apparently are super fast, which
The bikes are good.
they were not, right? At the debut, they were seen as dogs. They were
And
super
that
heavy.
is what happens. Because a bike, what makes you make a really good bike is sponsoring a team and working with the team because the bike first contact with the environment is not pretty. It's just like this bike sucks. And contrary to what some people, maybe some podcasts say, you can't just make a bike in a lab. Like it has to be out on the road. And so over the last 12 months, I'm sure they've just been tweaking it with feedback from the riders. It is actually really valuable to have feedback on a bike, and then you can make a pretty good bike over time. So and that's kind of the natural life cycle of sponsoring a team and why you would sponsor a team as a bike brand.
Spencer, unfortunately, I don't have the lyrics for the current Astana rap track. However, in Rap Genius, the kind of wiki for lyrics for rap songs, they do have their debut from 2019, which I believe is called Astana is My Team. It's Astana tradition to be in the first position. Big ambitions, now in a good condition. I'm doing my business. I'm doing my job. I will rap this song like Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Who do you think writes this? Like, is this a press officer?
I'm not sure.
Can you imagine if Jonathan Kaplan was the press officer for Astana?
This
this
might be a
assignment
right
slides
cadence
across his
strategies
desk.
project. Actually, Jonathan may be representing our leaders of the gang. This is Jakob Vogelsang and Lute Cinco on the cobbles, champagne bottles.
Yeah, I do often. That is stuck in my head, that one. So apparently it was good. Before we depart, we're going to take it back to where we started. The Mads Pedersen injury, obviously
Yes, let's
upsetting.
get serious here. Let's bring it
Upsetting.
down. Everybody
Upsetting.
gather around and take a knee.
Gather around. I'm going to say a prayer here, folks. But Mads Pedersen injured. What was interesting, a lot of interesting stuff from the Quinn Simmons interview. One being him putting USA Cycling on blast for, I don't know why they can't just pick a spot and leave the national championships there. It seems to be a different time every year. Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas were confused by this. I think Quinn's idea of just doing it in January would make a lot of sense, or just pick a spot after the tour, anytime. Don't move it around. But it's during Tour of Switzerland this year. Quinn Simmons changed his schedule to do the Dauphiné instead of Switzerland, flying back to do it, and then flying back to race the tour. Andrew is someone that just flew domestically. How do you feel right now, and would you recommend this right before the Tour de France instead of doing an altitude camp like everybody else is going to do?
It boggles my mind. I can't comprehend possibly doing this if you had the option to be co-located within a short flight of where you're going to race. It seems like it would be a massive competitive advantage. And even if you had two Wawa subs in your back pockets, I might be getting the name wrong. I've been told not to reference Jersey Mike's anymore when referring to the
Cease and desist from
the Scott McGill two subs protocol. I don't think that that's probably the way to win the race. So I don't know. Going back and forth from Europe, I think that you're actually, let's see, how many times a year do we think he's doing this?
a lot. And he said he was explaining why I didn't want to go to the World Championships, and he's like, we're always flying back and forth, and it kind of seemed like after most races, but
Okay.
I think a lot of people just live there because, and the significance of this one is usually you finish the Dauphiné or you finish Switzerland and you just go straight. You're in the Alps, you go straight to your camp. You're there for 2 weeks, then you go straight to the Tour. But this is like really going to be disruptive to his Tour preparation. Like that's
Yeah, young people probably don't think about this. I think as you advance in years, the impact becomes more pronounced, and then you simply can't ignore it. And now it's a frequent and popular topic of discussion among myself and those I know around my age and older who travel. And I think the deleterious effects of the amount of sitting that you have to do while traveling I think that it has a significant impact, and it's something you just don't really notice when you're younger, yet I think it has an equally negative impact. So anything you could do to avoid it as a professional athlete, I believe would be advisable.
you also bloat up and get real heavy.
Yeah,
People, underestimate this, but traveling on airplanes for long distances can. I went in for I did this on accident. I went in for a physical before, like a series of like multiple international flights, like back and forth, and then went in after, and they're like, "You're dying," basically. So what
right.
is what our tests are telling us? Like, you're not doing well, and I think it's because a lot of the foods you would eat and stuff, those Jersey Mike subs, they're not sitting too well at 30,000 feet. I'm trying to even figure out where the national championships is, and I
Is
cannot.
it in West Virginia?
Probably somewhere with no airport. It has been in West Virginia the last few years, Charleston. You do usually have to fly or drive about 6 hours from Washington, D.C., the closest major airport. So USA Cycling knocking it out of the park yet again with this. But another interesting thing Quinn Simmons said that relates back to Mads Pedersen, that he's not doing the classics in Belgium because he didn't want to play second fiddle. His theory is like not totally off base, that the team wanted a team just focused on Mads at Flanders specifically. He didn't want to work for Mads at Flanders. He thinks his energy is better spent flying back and forth from the United States, or as he said, perfect preparation for Amstel Gold. Luke Rowe and Geraint Thomas were saying, well, like you get up the road, usually it's a strength in numbers type situation. Like you get up the road, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's going to help Mads to have a legitimate contender next to him. Also, there's a lot of classics. There's like there's Gent Wevelgem. There's many chances in this classics campaign. But now that Mads Pedersen is hurt, what happens here? Is he going to change his program to be at Flanders? And this also shows you why it's sometimes good to send riders that it might not, like with Jonathan Milan and Mads Pedersen, maybe send them both to the Tour because you don't know what's going to happen to one of them. And then you have a legitimate backup that can step in. Right now, as things stand, Little Trek does not, because they sent a team just for supporting a guy who now might not be at the race or able to contest the race.
Sometimes the road decides, even when you don't want the road to decide.
The road makes the decision's been made by the road. We regret to inform you. I was as confused as Geraint Thomas and Luke Rowe. Do not see, especially when you're racing, when we're dealing with the situation we're dealing with Pogacar and Van der Poel, there's no bad ideas. Just
Right.
get them to the race, get them up the road. Like that's the only chance you have against these guys.
Yeah, Spencer, I dug up the quote that I was looking for. We talked about this a few months ago, and Pedersen spoke of Jonathan Milan going to the Tour last year and him staying home, and then the turn of events this year. And he said, last year it was a smart decision to bring Johnny to the Tour and send me to the Giro. Now it's his turn to compromise. And I want to note that there might be some cultural nuance at play here. Mads is extremely blunt and direct, and that's that's how he does it. He's a straight shooter. When I read that, though, I pick up notes of resentment, and we've talked about this in the past. So you have the Quinn Mads dynamic, you have the Mads Jonathan Milan dynamic, and I asked Jens Vogt about this when he was on Choose the Hard Way, and if you haven't checked that episode out, there's a lot of information in there that I don't think has been shared anywhere else before. But we really dug into what is it like when you're on a team, as these guys are, who all have a very legitimate chance of winning. Winning is going to put money in their pocket through bonuses for winning specific races, and it also gives them leverage in future negotiations. Yet you are on a team, and somebody needs to win, and you actually have to work together. It's a very complex dynamic, as it often is on any professional sports team. It's not just a friendly gathering of chums going out all for one for all. But it seems like once this is kind of spilling over into the public and people are making these kinds of statements and just not being discreet about it, I think you have a pretty serious problem if you're not even trying to cover it up when you're talking to media.
Yeah, I do think Mads has a way of speaking where he'll just say whatever he's thinking.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's hard to tell if there's brewing resentment or he just is like, no, this is the way it is, so I'm going to say it like this.
Yeah.
Or it does feel like it's starting, and it worked out. They won the green jersey last year at the Tour,
Right.
so it worked out. But there's a scenario where it didn't work out. If Jasper Philipsen doesn't crash, that gets complicated really fast, and you start to think maybe having one of the best stage hunters in the world here would have been a good idea to help with this. And, maybe Mads Pedersen goes on to win the Flanders-Roubaix double this year, and this is an issue. But you think you got a guy like Quinn Simmons on your team, you probably want him there.
Right.
I just can't. I'm as speechless as Garant and Luke. I can't really believe it. Like, we're dealing with insane competition. We need multiple leaders probably to be able to seriously challenge them.
Yeah, and, with the Mads injury as well, and as you noted, hey, maybe this is exactly what he needs to set himself up to actually, who knows, sometimes it brings out a bit of freshness, and
yeah, it can actually focus your training.
Right?
Like Jay Vine broke his wrist. And
exactly.
He'll probably solely focus on the Giro now, which can oddly help you at times.
Yeah, so maybe that's the scenario that we will see. I was just really excited, given how close Mads was last year. He was just relentless, and the way he came out swinging in every race, and he didn't accept the fait accompli of like, well, it's going to be Pog or it's MVDP, and I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. Instead, he ran an AMOG destroyer pattern and said, F it, I'm just going to give it a shot. And some of his attacks, I think, were some of the most spectacular moments of the 2025 season. So, yeah, I hope he has a Matty Heyman situation where the injury brings him into even sharper form, and I'd love to see him win one of the major classics.
The most frustrating, remember the 56K solo breakaway?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. But what's frustrating to me is 2024 Gent Wevelgem, him and Milan worked over Van der Poel like a speed bag, and then Pedersen beats him.
Right.
So you would think this guy is close to unbeatable in a classic that I've ever seen. The only person that can challenge him is Pogacar. And you beat him. You defeated him with a blueprint. I would like you to stick to that blueprint. That's all I ask. Why are we going away from the blueprint that defeated Van der Poel? That's usually a pretty good data point. How did we beat Mathieu Van der Poel? Maybe we stick to that. Like, why? The teamwork worked. Stick to it. What are we doing? Come on. Now I'm just like, I'm obviously not in the race, right? But that would be my 2 cents. Usually when you crack the code, you just wanna keep cracking that code. Don't go away from the code breaking.
The thing that just popped into my head, I'm gonna forget which writer it was, but I'm thinking about the scene in Unchained where what did they go into Pidcock's room and they told him
Yeah, that was hilarious. They're
right?
like, "Wait, I thought oh, man, what was that?" It was the sequence I think was Pidcock, they're like, "Hey, we want you to work for Geraint," and he's like, "N" I think he was like, "No, I wanna go for myself," and they go in to Geraint Thomas's room, like, "Yeah, Tom's gonna go on the breakaway tomorrow," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Why? Why would he do that? What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough situation. A lot of people to keep happy and everybody's there to make some money and to win.
Well,
Just
speaking
like
of
just like going to work. Yeah.
yeah, going to work, the school run, I will say so school run, I do gotta run, get that breakfast ready. Get to school yesterday, roll up, battery on the cargo bike, I'd not checked it for a few days. That thing
Oh,
dies. Boy, that's like a 150-pound bike, uphill the whole way home. I didn't put a foot down, Andrew, and I would say I worked harder than when we were on the wheel of those guys
right.
at the base of limit. I was doing big time watts to keep my foot not going on the ground, so wish me luck this time.
Yeah, good luck. And I did want to say we are going to get back together to record an Abandon Your Family live offsite follow up. I feel like there are a couple highly controversial topics that we haven't really covered yet. And I do want to do a follow up on just kind of get a better understanding of the results from the country breakfast experiment because I certainly have some thoughts I would like to share.
Interesting. It was I think there was a day Dan Swenson was like, "I haven't seen you guys eat at all." It's like, "Hey, man, we got that country breakfast in us."
Well, that and we're full liquid on the bike.
Yeah, I have 400
Yeah.
calories in each bottle.
Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah.
I got to talk on the debrief. And again, we can do a deep dive elsewhere. You need to get on the cargo bike. But when I ate that Martin bar, which I think it's like something from the future. I think it's called like Martin Solid. That might be the name of the bar. It was one of the most difficult acts of chewing and ingesting food that I've ever experienced. And it just reminded me, I don't really want to be chewing stuff on a bike and then it gets stuck in your
Yeah.
teeth. It's just, it doesn't really work for me.
I gotta have a ham and cheese sandwich, I remember that. Where are we storing these? How is this
Yeah.
why why are we eating Whole Foods on the bike? But, yes, Andrew, I can't wait to record that. We will convene soon, and we'll be back next week to talk about we should have quite a bit of racing coming up, so excited to get into it.
We'll see you then.